The rain wouldn't stop. It had been falling for 3 days straight on Colony Rift 7, a forgotten place left behind after the war. The buildings were cracked, the roads flooded, and the sky stayed dark. Most people had left long ago, but Mira had stayed. She was 16, brave, a little stubborn. And she liked to explore old things, ruins, tunnels, caves, anything the grown-ups called dangerous. That morning, Mira wore a torn gray coat and muddy boots. Her hood was soaked, but she didn't care. She had found something strange. On her scanner the night before, something big was moving near the edge of the colony ruins. Something that didn't match any known machine or animal. She had to see it. Mira followed the broken fence line past the collapsed solar fields. Water splashed around her legs. Her boots sank into soft ground. She passed an old warning sign, tunnel zone, sealed after flood. She ignored it. She always did. When she reached the old service road, she stopped, and her heart skipped a beat, Addie. The mouth of the flooded tunnel. Something stood. Huge. Still. Wings folded like black glass. Its body shimmered slightly, even in the gray rain. It had 4 legs, a long tail, and a head shaped like a bird. Or maybe a serpent. Its eyes glowed, faint gold. It was a dragon, but not from Earth. It was alien, and it was real. Mira ducked behind a fallen beam. Her breath came fast. She had read about creatures like this in old files. Most had been hunted or killed during the conflicts. None were supposed to be here, but this one wasn't moving. It wasn't flying. It just stood, silent, watching the tunnel. The tunnel itself was half underwater. The entrance was cracked and thick green water reached several feet deep. Bubbles rose from the far end like something shifted below. The dragon never turned its head, never looked away from the water. Mira stayed hidden for a long time. She watched the creature carefully. It didn't roar, didn't breathe fire, didn't patrol. It simply stood in the rain like a statue made of night and shadow. And then she noticed something strange. The dragon was wet, not just from rain, but soaked. Its wings dripped. Its chest heaved slightly, slow and tired. Mira narrowed her eyes. It wasn't guarding the tunnel like a beast protects treasure. It was waiting. But for what? She slowly moved from her hiding spot, one step at a time. The rain masked her sound. The mud helped her stay quiet. She got within 10 meters. Still, the dragon didn't move. She swallowed hard and took one more step. The dragon's head twitched, just barely. Its eye turned. Met hers. Mira froze. The air between them changed. Not hot, not cold, just heavy. Like sadness. She raised both hands. "I'm not here to hurt you," she whispered. The dragon blinked slowly. It didn't growl. Didn't raise its wings. It just stared at her, like it was trying to remember something. Then it turned its head back toward the tunnel and lowered it, not like an attack, more like a bow. Mira stared. She didn't understand. She stepped forward again, carefully, slowly. The dragon stayed still. She reached the tunnel edge. The water smelled stale. A few pieces of broken tech floated near the entrance. There was something deep inside. Something humming beneath the surface. She looked back at the dragon. It didn't stop her. Didn't move. It just watched. Mira knelt at the edge of the water. There was definitely something down there. Not just walls and stone. She could feel it in her bones. A strange warmth, deep, hidden, calling. But calling to what? To her? To the dragon? Or to something else? The rain kept falling. The dragon stayed where it was, and Mira whispered, "What? Are you guarding down there?" The dragon didn't answer, but in its eyes, she thought she saw tears. Mira came back the next day. She couldn't stop thinking about it. The alien dragon, the flooded tunnel, the strange sadness in its eyes. She barely slept that night. The storm had slowed. but her thoughts were louder than ever. Why didn't the dragon chase her? Why didn't it roar or fly away? Why did it just watch? She had to know. She returned with a flashlight, a new waterproof coat, and an old data pad. The water around the tunnel had risen overnight. Trees were half underwater now. The grass had turned to swamp, but the dragon was still there, exactly the same, standing like a statue, soaked in rain, unmoving. Its head faced the tunnel, just like before. Mira stepped out from the brush, her boots squelching in the mud. She was nervous, but her heart didn't race like yesterday. Something inside her knew it wouldn't hurt her. Still, she moved slowly, carefully. The dragon's head turned as she approached, its golden eyes locked with hers again. Mira stopped, held her breath, then, gently, it lowered its head. Not all the way, just enough, like it remembered her. She stepped closer. 1 step, then 2. The dragon didn't react. She walked all the way to the water's edge, the same place where she knelt yesterday. I came back, she whispered. The dragon blinked slowly. Its massive chest rose and fell. Not with threat, with weariness. Mira sat down on a chunk of stone. She opened her datapad and tapped a few keys. A soft scan beeped in the air. She pointed the scanner toward the dragon. The screen flashed red. Species unknown, heat signature, weak, signs of dehydration, energy levels, critical. She frowned. You're dying, she whispered. The dragon didn't move, didn't deny it, just stood, silent and still. She stood and walked a bit closer. The dragon's tail twitched slightly, not a warning, more like instinct. She stopped again. You're guarding something, she said softly. But no one's coming. Not anymore. The dragon's eyes closed, just for a moment, then opened again, and for the first time, it sat down slowly, carefully. The ground shook a little as it settled its great body into the mud beside the water. Mira watched, stunned. It trusted her. Why? She looked down at the tunnel. The water was darker today, still bubbling in the far end, still humming. She stepped to the edge and pointed the scanner into the water. Weak signals echoed back. Structure detected. Sealed chamber. Power source active. Organic remains present. Her breath caught. Organic remains. Something or someone was down there. She looked back at the dragon. Its eyes were still on the tunnel, not her. The tunnel, like it was waiting for something, or someone. She whispered, You're not guarding it to keep others out. You're waiting to let someone in. The dragon gave the smallest sound. A low hum, not a growl. More like a sigh. Mira sat beside it, only a few feet away now. The creature was massive, its skin layered in thick plates. But up close, she could see scars. Deep ones. Old. One on its neck, one across its side, and one on its chest, over something that looked like a carved symbol. A handprint. Small alien. Child-sized. Her throat tightened. You failed someone, didn't you? She whispered. The dragon didn't look at her, but one tear slid down from its eye. It fell into the water and vanished. The dragon had no voice, but it didn't need one. Its silence said everything. Mira touched the muddy stone under her, and for the first time since she arrived, she didn't feel like an explorer. She felt like a guest. The rain started again, soft like a lullaby. The dragon didn't move, and neither did Mira. She sat there for a long time, watching the water, her heart full of questions. But now, one thing was clear. The dragon wasn't a monster. It was a guardian. Of what? She would find out soon. The rain had stopped. For the first time in 4 days, the sky above Colony Rift 7 cleared. The sun peeked through the clouds, painting the flooded ruins in gold and gray. But Mira's eyes weren't on the sky. They were fixed on the tunnel. She stood at the edge just a few steps from the dark, green water. Behind her, the alien dragon sat motionless, its wings folded like broken sails, its gaze still locked on the depths. She could feel it. Something waited down there. Something that mattered. Mira tightened her coat, checked her waterproof bag, and took a deep breath. Then she stepped into the water. It was colder than she expected. The chill bit through her boots at once. Her legs sank deep into thick mud with every step. Bits of floating metal brushed against her knees. Old tech, long rusted. The tunnel was darker inside. The air changed. Echoes swirled gently around her, like whispers that didn't want to be heard. She turned on her flashlight. A narrow beam of white light cut through the murk. She moved forward, careful and slow, step by step. The water reached her thighs, then her waist, then her chest. She paused, turned back. The dragon hadn't moved. It was still there, just outside the tunnel, its body half lit by sunlight. Still watching, still waiting. Mira turned back and moved deeper. The scanner on her wrist beeped faintly. She pointed it toward the far wall. Distance, 6 meters. Power source. Detected. Organic trace. Stable. Structure. Sealed barrier. There it was. A wall, half covered in stone. Faint blue light glowed beneath the algae. Symbols were etched across its surface. Circles. Lines. Shapes she didn't recognize. And right in, the center, was a small handprint. Mira stared. It was just like the one carved on the dragon's chest. She stepped closer, her boots kicking up bubbles from the muddy floor. Her fingers reached out, hesitated, then slowly touched the glowing print. It didn't open, didn't react. Nothing happened. Suddenly, the water around her pulsed. A deep vibration, like something stirring far below. The scanner on her wrist flickered. Pulse registered. Energy. Rising. Mira stepped back. The glow from the wall faded, then returned, even softer. She turned around and started to leave. Then something caught her eye. To her left, barely visible beneath the water, was a shape. Not part of the wall, not stone. A figure. Small. Still. She gasped and crouched quickly, shining her light downward. There, behind the cracked floor and drifting roots, was the body of an alien child. Mira covered her mouth. It wasn't just bones. The body had been protected somehow, preserved. Its skin shimmered faintly, even underwater. Its small hands were folded across its chest, and on its head rested a broken crown made of crystal. She felt her heart twist, the guardian dragon and the sealed tunnel, the glowing handprint. It wasn't guarding a weapon, it was guarding a grave. Mira backed away, tears already filling her eyes. She stepped onto the tunnel's edge and pulled herself out of the water, breathing hard. The dragon stood now, its eyes locked with hers. No words were exchanged, but she didn't need them. She understood. Mira walked up slowly, stood in front of the great creature, and, for the first time, she bowed, not in fear, but in respect. The dragon lowered its head, eyes dim with sorrow, and closed them. A low sound escaped its chest, not a growl, not a roar, a sound like mourning, a goodbye that had lasted far too long. Mira whispered, "Was it your child?" The dragon didn't move, but one golden tear fell into the earth. Mira sat beside the dragon until night came. She said nothing else. She didn't need to. Sometimes grief is a story told without a single word. The next morning, Mira returned. Her boots were still wet from yesterday. Her bag was full of tools and a dry energy bar, but her heart was heavier than ever. She had barely slept. The image of the child underwater wouldn't leave her, neither would the dragon's tear. The tunnel looked the same, dark and cold, flooded with green water. But something felt different. The dragon stood again. It had returned to its usual place near the entrance, wings folded, eyes low. It didn't look at her this time, Not at first, as if it didn't expect her to come back. Mira stepped toward the water. The dragon's head turned, just slightly. She paused, then nodded to it like a promise, and waded back in. The water was colder today, the tunnel seemed deeper, but Mira didn't stop. She knew where she was going now, straight to the glowing wall beneath the surface. She reached the barrier in minutes, the same handprint, the same strange symbols. She pressed her fingers against the stone again. Nothing. She tried her scanner. Still, nothing. The datapad flashed a line, biometric lock, denied. She clenched her jaw. Why? She swam up, took a deep breath, then went back under. This time she examined the wall carefully. There were faint carvings around the handprint, not just symbols, but patterns. Tiny lines, like musical notes. Some repeated, others were curved like waves, and near the bottom, barely lit, were small circular shapes, echoes of sound. It wasn't just a lock, it was a song. Mira surfaced again, heart racing. Back on dry ground, she sat down and opened her datapad. She zoomed into the image she had scanned earlier. The carvings were clearer now. She pulled out an audio tool and tapped gently on a few shapes. The tones were soft, beautiful, notes in an alien scale, not a key, a melody, a lullaby. Mira looked up at the dragon. It watched her now, silent. She stood and spoke clearly. It's not just a door. The dragon blinked. It needs a song, a voice. The dragon stepped forward, its head lowered again. This time, it hummed. Soft. Low, a single tone, and Mira felt it in her chest. The dragon didn't know the full melody, but it remembered the sound. That evening, Mira sat by the tunnel and hummed too. She didn't know the song, not yet, but she listened to the dragon's hum. She matched the notes on her pad, slowly, patiently, piece by piece. The next morning she tried again. Water reached her chest. She touched the wall. This time she didn't press hard. She placed her fingers gently and whispered a note. Just one. The wall glowed. Faintly. Briefly. But it hurt her. She rushed out, breath quick, heart racing. I heard you, she whispered. She looked at the dragon. It listened. The dragon didn't move, but its wings lifted slightly, as if, for the first time in years, it felt something stir. Hope. That night Mira sat beside the great creature. They didn't speak, but they both looked at the tunnel, at the sleeping door, beneath the flood, and Mira whispered into the night, I'll find the full song. The dragon closed its eyes, not in pain, not in defeat, but in trust. Mira didn't sleep that night. She stayed close to the dragon, curled under a piece of tarp between tree roots, the sound of rain gently tapping above. But her mind kept drifting back, to the glowing wall, the song carved in stone, and the small figure beneath the water. She had touched something ancient. Now it was touching her back. The next morning the air was strange, still, heavy, almost like the sky was holding its breath. The dragon stood where it always did, but its head was tilted, watching her as if it knew this day would be different. Mira stepped into the water once more. No hesitation this time, only purpose. The tunnel welcomed her. The water shimmered around her legs. A soft light pulsed beneath the surface. Not from her flashlight, from somewhere else. As she reached the sealed wall, the light grew brighter. Then she heard it. A sound. Faint. Familiar. Not from her datapad. Not from the dragon. But from the water. She crouched and listened. A melody. Soft, like a child humming. Then, without warning, the wall glowed, and the water turned to memory. Images bloomed around her like smoke underwater. She gasped. It wasn't real, but it felt alive. She saw a room, round and silver, full of glowing plants and floating crystals, an alien child smiling, arms outstretched, small, thin, full of joy. And behind him, the dragon. But it was different then. Smaller, smoother, glowing with blue light instead of gold. A companion. Protector. The memory shifted. The child and dragon sat near a pool. The child hummed softly, the same tune, the same song carved into the wall. A lullaby. Mira's eyes filled with tears. It was his song, the one that opened the door. Then, darkness, alarms, flashes of red, a roar of explosions. The ground shook. The dragon spread its wings, curled around the child. But the memory was breaking. The child screamed. The water shook. The tunnel groaned. Mira was pulled back to the present, gasping, soaked, trembling. The wall dimmed again. The water went still. The memory had ended. She crawled back to the tunnel edge and sat there, knees pulled to her chest. She didn't cry. Not yet. But she stared at the water like it had spoken directly to her soul. Behind her, the dragon approached. It stood near her quietly, and for the first time, it sat beside her, close. Mira whispered, "He was yours." The dragon didn't move. She nodded to herself. "He trusted you. He loved you." The dragon lowered its head just slightly. Mira looked at its chest, at the old scar in the shape of a child's hand. It wasn't just a memory. It was a mark of grief. And maybe of guilt. "I saw it," Mira said. "I saw the child, the song. I think I can finish it." The dragon looked at her, hope flickering behind its golden eyes. Mira reached into her bag, pulled out her datapad, and pressed record. Then she hummed softly, note by note. She added the part from the memory, then matched it with the symbols, then filled in the gaps. By sunset, the lullaby was complete. She didn't know the words, but the melody was clear, clear enough to open something forgotten. That evening, Mira sat with the dragon once more. They didn't speak. They just listened. To the wind, to the earth, to the silence of something sacred. Returning. The wind was still. Even the leaves didn't move. Mira stood ankle-deep in the water, eyes fixed on the tunnel. The sky above was painted with gold and gray, as if it too was waiting for something to end, or begin. Behind her, the dragon stood like a mountain, silent, wings tight, head low. It hadn't moved in hours. But its eyes never left her. It knew this was the moment. Mira walked slowly into the water. Her bag was gone, her datapad left behind. She carried nothing, except a song, a lullaby she pieced together from echoes, memories, and love. The song of a child lost, the song of a guardian who never left. She stepped deeper, waist high now. The light from the wall under the water was pulsing again. The symbols glowed faint blue. The tunnel itself felt warmer, alive, like it was breathing with her. She stopped in front of the sealed wall, closed her eyes, and began to hum. The notes were soft, broken at first. Her voice cracked, but the tunnel listened. She hummed again, steadier, and then sang, wordless, note by note. The melody filled the flooded passage, each sound wrapped around the stone like fingers turning an old key. Then the water rippled. The glowing handprint lit up, bright, brighter, until the wall itself began to shift. Stone slid beneath water, air hissed from old vents. The sound was not loud, but ancient, like something finally releasing a breath held for years. Mira stepped back. The door was opening. Behind her, the dragon let out a sound, not a roar, not a cry, but something deeper, like a soul cracking open. It walked into the water for the first time since Mira arrived. Slow, careful, Its head dipped low, and it knelt, right there, in the shallow flood. Mira turned and saw it. The dragon, once towering, now bowed like a grieving parent. Its wings touched the surface. Its chest heaved, and its golden eyes were wet. Inside the chamber, the tunnel drained, not fast, but steady. The song had not just opened a door, it had begun the healing. The child's body remained where it had always been, still cradled in light. But now, small beams from the walls surrounded it. Soft colors. Blue, purple, silver, like stars floating in still water. Mira stood at the edge. She didn't enter. She didn't touch anything. She just whispered, "I brought you back." The dragon moved beside her. It looked into the chamber, and for the first time Mira saw its expression truly change. Not just sorrow, but peace. The creature stepped forward and slowly lowered its massive head until it touched the floor. Just in front of the glowing resting place, it stayed there, unmoving, and began to hum. It was the same melody Mira had sung, but fuller, older, deeper. It was the original song. Complete. True. Mira sat beside the dragon. She placed one hand on its shoulder and closed her eyes. Let the sound wash over her. Let the chamber shine. Outside, the sky opened, the clouds parted, and the sun fell gently over the flooded world. The tunnel no longer felt like a ruin. It felt like a tomb no longer forgotten. Two beings sat beside each other. One human, one guardian, and a song once lost, now returned. The sun was rising. It poured golden light across the quiet tunnel and shimmered on the water like a soft blanket. The war-torn colony looked peaceful for once. Birds chirped softly in the trees above. The storm had passed. Inside the tunnel, it was still. The water was almost gone now. Only small puddles remained near the entrance of the secret chamber, and in the center of that chamber lay the body of a child, glowing, still, beautiful. Mira stood beside the doorway. She had not crossed the threshold, not once. She somehow knew. This place was sacred. The dragon lay next to her, its massive head resting low, eyes half closed. Its wings trembled slightly, but not from fear. It had remembered everything, and it had let go. Mira whispered, "He died in your arms, didn't he?" The dragon didn't move, but that was answer enough. She stepped forward, just one small step, and knelt at the edge of the dry floor. Her eyes moved to the tiny figure within the soft blue glow. The child's face looked peaceful. His skin sparkled, faintly like stars trapped under his skin. Mira's voice cracked. "You've been guarding him all this time, not to protect a secret, but to protect his rest." She looked at the dragon again. "You stayed because you couldn't forgive yourself." The dragon opened its eyes, slow, heavy. Tears fell silently onto the stone. Not loud, not broken, just release. Mira took a slow breath and sat down beside the creature. "You did everything you could," she said gently. "You held him when no one else could. You stayed even after the world forgot. You became his grave, his guard, his memory." She looked up at the sun pouring in through the cracks in the tunnel roof. "But it's time," she whispered. "Time. To say goodbye." The dragon lifted its head. Its eyes searched hers, and for the first time, Mira saw something different in them. Not sorrow, not pain, but peace. Mira stood and pulled out something from her pocket. A small crystal shard. She had found it floating in the drained chamber, just beside the child's hand. She stepped to the center, holding it gently. Then she hummed, the lullaby, soft, pure, complete. As the final note left her lips, the chamber glowed again, stronger than ever before. The light wrapped around the child, then rose, slowly, quietly, like mist, like breath, like a soul returning home. The child's body turned to starlight, not gone. Freed. The dragon stood fully now, tall, still trembling, but whole. Its wings opened slowly, catching sunlight for the first time in years. It walked forward, stopped beside the spot where the child had rested, and bowed its head, not in shame, but in goodbye. Mira placed the crystal shard where the child had been, then turned. The dragon followed. Together, they left the tunnel. Outside, the world felt new. The trees were greener. The air was cleaner. Or maybe Mira was just seeing it differently. Now, she looked up at the sky, then at the dragon beside her. "You're not a guardian anymore," she said softly. "You're free too." The dragon tilted its head, then slowly, it spread its wings. For a moment, Mira thought it might fly away, leave forever, but instead, it leaned its head toward her. A quiet gesture. A thank you. A farewell. Then, with one powerful beat of its wings, it rose. Up, up into the sky. The wind rushed around her as she watched it rise above the trees, and then, it was gone. Mira stood there, a long time, eyes full, heart full. She wiped her tears and smiled. The dragon hadn't left behind treasure or power. It had left behind something greater. A story. Of love, of loss, of loyalty that never gave up. And Mira, she would tell that story, to anyone who would listen. Because some graves are not marked with stone, but with stars.